Eric Burgess here with Music Marketing TV. Today we're checking out Zebra 2. We're going to be making a cool resonance bass. It's a nifty trick to know, really straightforward, using the comb filter. Let me really quick just play for you the audio example, and I'm going to move some knobs so you can hear some of the textures we'll get out of this idea. Here some of the moves we're going to be doing. Pretty interesting things. So let's go ahead. Let's go through the patch sort of how I made it. I think that would make the most sense. All right. So first off, I have in the global effects a distortion. This isn't in the order. I know I just said I was going to do that, but I need to point this out real fast. This distortion is incredibly important as I show you the patch so that if you're trying to follow along, you know that this is here. So if I turn this off, it sounds like this. This ringy-dingy little thing. But all of the sound is there. Like, you can hear the texture. We just need to bring it forward, and that's what this distortion lives to do. And so it's a mode. It's in wedge shape. I dialed up the output input and sort of just set things according to what I thought sounded cool. And that's what this distortion is doing. But as I show you the patch, and if you're trying to follow along and wondering why yours is so different, this is probably it. So let's go forward here. So first up, we need a sound source. So I loaded up a sound source. I said, cool, we got ourselves a sound source. I did add a chop lift effect later. We'll come back to that because that was not the next thing that I did. The next thing I did was I said, I'm going to screw around with comb filtering because comb filtering sounds crazy. And to demonstrate that, let me show you. So there's a bunch of comb filtering modes in here. It's probably the most intense comb filter I've ever used in terms of versatility. So if I go to like comb mode and play, it's completely different. It processes the sound in a totally different way. You go to split comb. So there's so many cool things you can do in here. I settled on dissonant, and it produces these resonancy textures that I really enjoyed. So I said, okay, that's pretty cool. Let's stick with that. Now in here, there's two types of inputs, or outputs, I should say. There's the input that you feed it, and that's our oscillator. Oscillator comes in, runs through this input, whoop-de-doo. However, there's this prefill type. So this can actually act as its own sound source. And what it does is it produces a saw output, and the prefill is just this saw output coming straight out. So you actually don't need an oscillator if you want to use this. But here's what it sounds like. It's not doing that much in the sound, but I do have it turned up. So let me just show you. It's that little. So it's really, really soft. Boo, boo. Let me just play the pattern. But it is in there. At the end of the day, it's like nothing compared to the input that I'm driving in, which is an oscillator, which is coming forward. But it is a kind of a cool thing to know about. Now, not all the knobs in here make audible changes. They're not always on, depending on the mode that you're on. And I always get them mixed up despite how many times I grab the comb filter. So just so you're aware, sometimes, like for example, the distort knob and the flavor knob and whatnot, some of these knobs may not do anything in certain modes. Now you saw the flavor knob definitely did. But the next knob that's pretty important in a comb filter is the feedback. So the feedback knob, in the case of dissonant, when we make it more positive, it's not really going to do that much. But as soon as we go to negative, the feedback path gets crazy, and this is what it sounds like. That's a pretty cool idea. But you can see here, that's where you're going to be wanting to mess with. You're going to kind of want to mess with the feedback. Detune is, and now this has a chance to make your sound wider. If I set it to 0, 100% negative. So I liked what it did when I detuned it all the way to 100%. So I said, cool, let's go with that. Not the most technical thinking on the planet, just sort of going with whatever I liked. Touching things with knowing relatively what's going down. Now we have tone and flavor. These are just going to be, again, just general tone shaping decisions. You can change them throughout your musical line to get something that sounds really cool. And that's generally what's going on there. Now we have distortion up, but if I turn it down, it doesn't do anything. And this is one of the knobs that I said, some of these knobs don't do anything. This is one of them. I was messing around with a couple other modes, and that's why that was up. In case you're wondering, you're like, what the heck? Why is that up then? So anyways, that's the comb filter. However, it was pretty dull actually while working on it. If we listen to it without the chop lift in the oscillator section on, that's what I actually have. So naturally, I wanted to make it brighter and come out and be a bit edgier. And to do that, I started digging through effects in here and things that would just, in general, make it sound brighter. And I settled on chop lift as the one I like the most. And so we just dial that up. Now, if you drive it really hard, you'll get this like really aggressive sound, but I didn't dig it as much. I like this like on the verge of going there, but just before it. That to me was like the sweet spot. And then after that, as I showed you at the very beginning, it sounded like this in reality. This itsy bitsy little thing. And then we turned on the wedge shape and it went through puberty and grew up. And that is how you make that sort of a resonancy bass kind of an idea. So it's honestly, it's pretty straightforward. It seems like a lot of little steps, but a lot of them are just little touch-ups. But the main idea is an oscillator through a comb filter. That's it, in distortion mode. After you have that, you might want to brighten it up with a chop lift in the oscillator section and following it up with a shaper in the master effects out so that you can get your nice big sound, mix it with some other basses and get something really cool. If you have any questions about this, let me know. Subscribe and hit that bell icon for future videos and have a blessed day.